Hello, everybody, and welcome to our day early comic review show. I'm Jason,
I'm Andy.
and we're with Infinity Flux Comics out of Chattanooga, Tennessee. So today's show, we are filming it on January 4th of 2022. Most of these comics, the DC ones go on sale today. All the rest go on sale tomorrow, January 5th. But of course, after we're done bagging and boarding them, we divide them up. We read the ones that we're most interested in, the ones that we think are the most desirable, and then we do these mini reviews of each one, where we try to tell you a lot more than you'll get in the solicitation of the comic, but we don't spoil everything. It's not just a complete play-by-play. We will tell you if there's major first appearances. We'll basically tell you why you might want this comic, whether you're a reader or somebody who just likes to collect for major events. That's kind of what we do here,
Yeah.
in a nutshell. So I'd say a pretty medium week this week. That's
Yeah.
how I would call it. Not a ton of new number ones, but some good continuations with a few surprises too. So as you can see, we've got sort of the first six we're going to do, but we have a lot more off to the side. We're going to show a lot of real cool variants, some incentive variants. So just kick back, make yourself a sandwich, pour yourself a drink, and let's begin.
Yeah, it's funny. We both were switching around what order we are going to talk about things to the last minute. I was switching things around. I'm like, how do I kick this one off? And you're like, I was going to feature this one, but now I'm going to feature this one.
Yep.
So yeah, like you said, there's some surprises this week. And what a better way to begin with than Monkey Meat.
I've been wondering about this
This
one.
is Monkey Meat, number one of a 5-issue miniseries. Hold that up so you can just see. Like, even the closer you look, the more it's like, what am I seeing?
That's like stuff my artist friends would be like doodling in high school.
Yeah.
And it would just be like the coolest thing. You talk about it all during lunch period.
So this is by Junie Ba, is the artist, writer, creator. And it is an anthology. There's I believe, a little monkey over on the side saying, thrilling anthology. When I was kind of researching this one a little bit more, it said it's a combination of Ice Cream Man and Chew. And it's like, yes, and then like put those in a blender, mix in some of just the weirdest stuff you've ever found, and that's Monkey Meat. So, like I said, it is an anthology. It is, but the first issue kind of sets up what is. It sounds weird to say, what is Monkey Meat? Well, it's exactly as it sounds, but it is about a corporation that has set up on an island, and they make canned monkey meat. And the people who make it are the monkeys. And while they're canning the stuff, they just pop out an eye and throw it in, or one of their hands and throw it in. This is a very weird book. Imagine this description, but with a very, like, the cover art is very indicative of the interior art. But in this first one, it seems like the story they're telling, because it kind of goes all over the place, is an introduction to the island, why it was made on this island, and when they set up this monkey meat factory on this island, there was other inhabitants of the island that they had to do stuff with. So a little bit Willy Wonka, they just said, hey, you can work in our factories. But other than that, there is also this, it's a kind of a story of one of the island inhabitants who is a very tiny little, you don't even know what he is. He kind of looks like a bug. It even says on one of the parts whatever kind of organism he is. And he gets infected with mutated monkey meat, and he turns giant. He becomes like their enforcer, and it's kind of his story. I could keep trying to explain it. It wouldn't do you any good. You have to read it. But as weird as it is, I really enjoyed it. Like, as I was reading, I'm like, I really like this because I don't know what I'm going to see on the next page. And it is crazy, psychedelic, nutso, but in a really fun way that I'm like, oh, I want to see what happens next. There's some fake ads in it for monkey meat. Just a bunch of weird stuff. It's a very, you can tell, very indie, but not in a pretentious way. It's indie in a no one else would publish this, and this is really fun and goofy.
So is that Image?
It is Image.
I feel like they showed up at the meeting and it's like they're gonna pitch it. They're like, it's called Monkey Meat. It's about, and the Image person's like, well, let me do some editing, and they're like, no, we already drew it. It's done.
It's
and they're
done.
like, oh, okay, just leave it Monkey Meat.
Yeah.
The art is really cool.
Yeah, I mean, you can see it stands out among all the books here. The title, you just mention it to somebody, and they're gonna be like, well, I got to know more about that. So I really enjoyed Monkey Meat #1. I'm looking forward to #2. Just to see what craziness are they going to show us next. Yeah, at least we only have one cover for it. I don't even know if there are more covers, just the one, but this is the only one we got right now.
All right, I'm going to start out by talking about Batman issue 119. This is the second issue by the new creative team of Williamson and Molina. So the writing style, the art style have both definitely changed quite a bit. So in this issue, we get to find out who is funding Batman Incorporated. So last issue, Batman Incorporated got in trouble. It seems like they may have killed a villain, a new villain named Abyss, who we get introduced in the last issue as in he's been killed. It's like, oh, there's a serial killer, and his name's Abyss, and he looks really cool, but this is all last issue.
Yeah.
But Batman Incorporated killed him. And, so Batman, of course, has to travel over there to figure out what's going on. Well, somebody has been funding Batman Incorporated because Bruce Wayne doesn't have his money anymore. He hasn't had his money in, like 20 issues, it feels like now. So this issue, you will find out who is actually the benefactor for Batman Incorporated. Also occurring in this issue is Batman and a rival both want to do an autopsy on Abyss, the character who was murdered last time. So, he gets in sort of a tug of war, not literal,
With a dead body.
over trying to give this body an autopsy. But then the other thing is, I like trying to be vague here, but tantalize, because it's a good issue.
Yeah.
A good bit goes on in it. So a new villain turns the table on everything. Okay, so second half of the issue, tables get turned on everything because this new villain, and Batman does not walk away unscathed. Something happens to Batman that is going to last at least until next issue, if not several more. Like, there's something that could happen to almost any hero, really anyone, any of us, that would be a large detriment to just life in general. That's the biggest hint I can give anymore, and I think people could kind of guess it. So, on top of that, there's a backup story. There's a Gotham Academy backup story where Maps puts on a Robin suit and in a way gets to be Robin to Batman. She at least gets a ride in the Batmobile. And this story is going to be continued. It's not done. So I have a feeling that Maps is going to be a little more of a semi-official Robin, at least in this story that they're telling, this backup story that's going on. Now, I have read some places saying this is first Maps as Robin. I would like to correct people on that. Batman Black and White #4, there was already a story with Maps as Robin in it. So just put that out there. Set the record straight.
Yeah.
So that's Batman number 119.
And is that story necessarily in continuity? I mean, it's kind of like one of those side things, like this happened on a weekend or something.
Are you talking about the one in Batman 119?
The Maps story.
So I think it's in continuity it's not in a multiverse way.
Yeah.
This is definitely not the regular timeline, because in this one, Bruce Wayne still has his money. I think it's sort of a past story.
Yeah. The events in it aren't affecting the main story.
Correct. They are not affecting the main story currently, but it does seem to be completely canon.
Yeah.
Though. Okay, so we have this Matina variant. Got to get it in the right glare to see it. It looks great in person. It really does. It's just in a bag and just the way that Matina does things. So there we have it.
Next up, I have the third part of Justice League Incarnate. Let me say, this is for sure my favorite issue of this series so far, but is up there for one of my favorite books this week because it is so, like Joshua Williamson is just going all out with the multiverse thing, and I mean, I feel like we've read a lot of multiverse involved books recently. Everybody wants to do their multiverse stories, but this one takes it to a whole nother level. So I don't want to spoil the kind of big part because it's just really it's funny and it's fun to read. But I will say that in the DC universe there is multiple Earths, and some of them are based off of other comic book publishers. So there is one that's very Marvel heavy that's really funny, but there's also one that is like Image. We've seen one of those. Dino Cop has been a kind of a B character in Justice League Incarnate and all of the multiversity stuff, where he's kind of a take on Savage Dragon. Well, we get more of those kind of characters in this issue. A very key Image, kind of the original run of Image characters, get their own versions in this. And not just the heroes, also the villains. So there's one I don't want to give away. I probably should because it's kind of the coolest one. But I mean, if you know who's kind of the figurehead of original Image, you should know who it is. That's really fun. So in a previous issue, they all kind of got thrown to different universes. So one team is in this Image-like universe. One of them is in the world of Captain Carrot and the Zoo Crew, which is really funny. You do see Batman punch a cat, and it's just really like a really fun issue. And then the third group that is President Superman and Captain Multiverse. You'll have to see where they end up because it is very surprising. But I'll say there's a visit to a comic book store in it, and some discussion about the nature of comics. So they get very meta in this. It's really cool. See, there is maybe some first appearances, but there's also the return of some very key characters we haven't seen in a long time that maybe didn't even start out at DC. They start out at other publishers that I think a lot of longtime fans will be happy that they are back in their original uniforms, kicking butt, looking really cool. Some really cool name drops and everything. So Justice League Incarnate #3, such a cool issue. I'm really excited to see what happens with the next one because some of these characters they're introducing, it's cool that they're actually staying around and interacting with our main heroes. We have this variant. This is the Fornes variant of Captain Multiverse. She's turning out to be a really cool character. That's it.
All right, well. So on the radar this week, Thor number 20. This is a big book. Is Donny Cates about to reignite his speculator fire with this one? I don't know, but this book I have read reports is already selling just the A cover for $20 or more. So that's the first thing I'll tell you on this. Now, why is that? It has the first appearance of a major new character who appears to be a villain. I'd be surprised if it weren't a villain. It is the God of Hammers. You know, it talks. I think God of Hammers is right on the cover there.
Yeah.
It says God of Hammers, but God of Hammers appears in this book. I cannot tell you any more than that. It would definitely spoil something that would be much better for you to read. So I'll leave it at that.
You can say it's more interesting than just being like, oh, another character.
Yeah.
Like another just a new character.
Yeah. Anyone who reads Thor, it'll have some meaning to you.
Yeah.
That's what I would say. It isn't just like some new person in a fedora shows up and goes, "Hi, I'm the God of Hammers."
Or we were speculating it's like it's just a floating hammer with a beard, and it's like, I'm the God of Hammers.
Yeah, so it is more than that. So the comic, otherwise, the first bit of it, it's Thor and Odinn arguing yet again. Like, I think I've read enough about that.
Yeah.
But, I mean, those two, they are infuriating to be around. I don't know how any of the rest of their family can cope with them. But then, luckily, Loki whisks them away and goes, "Hey, guys, there's more going on than you arguing over stuff." Because it seems that somebody has been wielding Mjolnir and has been destroying and killing everyone in the 10 realms. I mean, it's like scenes of gore and violence you have to see. They don't go into how bad it is, so you'll have to read it yourself and see what you think by the art, but it doesn't look too good. So who is doing this? Well, it's the God of Hammers, as I spoke about earlier. Let's see, what else does the book have in it? Oh yeah, Throg is back in it a little bit,
Good.
which is good. Yeah, Thor had put Throg in charge of finding who stole the hammer a few issues back. I've been waiting for that to pay off, and so that's my summary. Tons more in it, of course, than that. But this book is red hot this week. We're actually out of the variant, so I don't have the variant to show you. So that's it. Go to your store, look for Thor number 20s. Now, will it stay red hot like this? Who knows?
That's with any of Donny Cates's things. It does fluctuate. He does do a good job at creating characters and using them, like Black Winter and Null and all of that,
course, yeah.
which could stay around longer. They may come back later, but it's cool when he creates a character, and it's always a key book to look for.
Let's just hope that the God of Hammers isn't just Black Winter with like a bad mustache. Oh, it's me. So
puppeteered by Null.
Yeah.
Okay, my next one is the last part of Inferno. I always want to say X-Men Inferno. There's no X-Men Inferno. This is just Inferno. Issue number 4. And this is also Jonathan Hickman's last X-Men story, at least, for the foreseeable future, that he kicked off way back in House of X and Powers of 10. And I will say this wraps up some of that story. Of course, you're never going to 100% wrap up any X-Men story, because you always got to leave room for the next bit to sneak in there. But it's a very interesting issue, because I will say you do have to have been keeping up with some of the major X-Men titles. Maybe not all of them, but there is some things that are brought up that I had to look up and be like, oh, that first appeared in, X-Men number whatever, at least from this Hickman run of X-Men. But this is the issue where Mystique and Destiny finally make their big move and are going to take down the mutants and Krakoa and Arakko and all of those things forever. But you'll have to see what happens, because they have a choice they have to make. It is a 3-answer choice, because of course Destiny can see the future, and she's basically like, we've got these 3 options. We can do this or this, and here's the outcomes of them. So you'll have to read it to see what that is, but it does pretty heavily affect the mutantdom that has been going on. I will say one of the major plot points from House of X and Powers of 10 is wrapped up in a some people may like it, some people may want more. Your mileage may vary on stuff like that, but it is nice to get some closure to some stories that we have been reading now for a few years. But overall, I like the issue. I'm very interested to see the next one coming up, that is X-Men Forever or X-Men Infinite or whatever it is. It's the next big storyline coming up after this that comes out in a few months. So yeah, good issue, interesting wrap up. Like any X-Men book, not 100% wrapped up, because the X-Men are still going. You can't just wipe everybody off of the series. So cool issue of X-Men Inferno. We have this variant with Moira on it, of course, kind of the big crux behind a lot of the stuff that's been going on. A lot of stuff with her in here. This is the Decal variant. I think there's a Wolverine head in there, and I don't even know if Wolverine appears in this issue at all. Of course, you also have to have a Momoko cover with Destiny. So, good issue. A lot of people will be happy that one of the big storylines is coming to an end.
So Thor was my pick of the week from Marvel. Then my independent pick of the week is easily Nocterra Special, which the cover just says Nocterra. See in the corner it says Blacktop Bill Special. So it's solicited as Nocterra Special, but all the covers say Blacktop Bill Special. So it really is his special, which that is what this book is about. So he's one of the scariest villains from Nocterra. If you've not been reading Nocterra, I think it would be a little difficult to get into this. It's still a good read. I think you could still enjoy it, but you wouldn't understand the world. They do not do a summary on here's the world of Nocterra and here's why Blacktop Bill is so scary and here's what happens if you're in the darkness too long. They don't catch up on any of that. They launch into, you get to hear about Blacktop Bill's origin as two characters are talking. This is from actually a previous issue. You just get more of their conversation. But as they're talking, you get to see it. And so that's what gives it more of the realistic quality of this really is his origin. The first thing I'll say is it's not a full origin, meaning you don't start back with his parents and his mom isn't pregnant with him and you don't see him in grade school.
They're walking in a back alley after seeing Zorro. And...
Yeah, you don't get that. And I'll tell you, some villains become good, you know, or at least neutral. You know, they're kids. They weren't so bad. Something changes them. They don't go that far into Blacktop Bill, and I get it. It's because he is so nasty and evil that they can't really, like, was he ever good?
Yeah.
Was he not just born this, like, demon child or something? So they don't start there. You don't get to see, you know, he started a normal person or a good guy. It's, you know, he's just a messed up dude. It's just back on Earth before all the shadow stuff happened. And even back then, he was awful. You learn that he's sort of a very thoughtful individual. He's very drawn to, like, philosophy, but he has his own sick and twisted views on life and death through it. You get to just see, you know, Scott Snyder wants to build up a villain, and he's good at doing it. He likes doing it. And so it's all these examples of, well, here is why Blacktop Bill, he's a villain, but even more. You know, he's bad,
not trying to,
but
he's
worse
not
than
trying
you
to do
think.
the, well, let's show you a little sympathy for him. Let's see, he's got a good heart. It's like, no, he's a real bad guy.
Yeah, it's a good read. It's nothing too gratuitous. It really is creative. It really makes him a scary villain in a creative way, which is my favorite way to have a villain. And in the end, you just come to realize that he prefers, like, he was born in the wrong world. That this new, terrifying world that Earth has become in regular Nocterra, that's really the world that he should have been in. And so, of course, he's going to shine in it. He's going to be perfect for it. You do not quite learn all about his powers. You don't learn how he seems to have sort of fused with the shadows. Not everything's explained. It really is more just let's fill you in on who he is a bit and how far he's gone even before the world was in this chaos that it's in. So, very good issue. I quite enjoyed it. Nocterra in general, I mean, go out and get the trade. It is easy to still get into this comic. It's been optioned.
Do you think this is a must read if you're reading Nocterra? Like,
absolutely. Yeah, I think Blacktop Bill, he is the big villain of the book. Now, he may work for somebody. It seems like he does. There may be somebody over him, but he's the mini boss.
Yeah.
You know, in video games, it's not the big boss. It's the mini boss you got to worry about. So, all right, we have a few variants to show here. Here is the Cowan variant. Then we have the Tony S. Daniel variant. See, that's just something scary about somebody's teeth looking like that.
He clearly keeps them brushed, so...
There's also a 1 in 10 Daniel variant that we're selling for $15. There is a 1 in 25 Cowan sketch variant we're selling for $20. And there's a 1 in 50 Cowan raw variant that we're selling for $55.
I like how you can see all the pencil marks. They're just like, color this character in.
Yeah.
Okay, so my next one is another that's competing for my favorite of the week. And I've enjoyed every issue of this so far, but this one really stands out. This is Dark Knights of Steel number 3, of course by Tom Taylor and art by Yasmin Putri. And I love these uh, Elseworld things where you get to see different interpretations of a character that you know, but what are they like in other things? This one gives us even more in this medieval era DC universe. So the story in this one, um, now it's been a few issues. I can say that Jor-El has been murdered. That was a big thing, taken out by who we assume is Green Arrow from a great distance. Then there is also the rival kingdom that is ruled by Black Lightning, the Jefferson Empire, and there has been a murder of the king's son. So we kind of have these two things, and of course, when you have these warring factions, they're gonna blame each other for these things. But maybe somebody is between them. So we get to see some of the characters that were set up before, which is really cool. If you know, there's another super character in that was introduced, I believe, in the last issue that is very cool. Got a little bit different name than what we expected. Um, but in this one, it also begins with something that is crash landed on Earth. It is spotted by a young Jimmy Olsen looking through his telescope, and Bruce. I guess he's not Bruce Wayne. Whatever. He's the because he's not a Wayne,
Right.
but Bruce and Alfred go out to investigate what has just crashed on Earth, and it's green and glowing, so you can maybe imagine what that is. There's also an appearance by the Metal Men, who are super cool in this universe because they're just like a bunch of knights on horseback. Really cool version of them. And we get more with Paradise Island and who are on the island in this version of the universe. Because, yes, you have Diana and Hippolyta, but you have some other key DC characters who they've worked in onto the island as well. And we get some more of the political of how the two big kingdoms and then this island kingdom, how they interact. But it has a pretty awesome cliffhanger and a very shocking death that is definitely going to spin this book in a different direction than what you initially thought it was building towards. So a fantastic issue of Dark Knights of Steel. I can't wait for more of this. I want backstories on all of the weird different versions of these characters. And then we have the Joshua Middleton variant. And we have the Putri Incentive variant. This is a 1 in 25 that we are selling for $25 to our customers.
Okay, so I read Detective Comics 1047. This is the next in the weekly installment of the Tower series where they're building Arkham Tower. They're actually done building it. Arkham Tower is now open. And so in this issue, this has the first appearance of Dr. Ware. He is the head doctor for Arkham Tower, and he believes that prisons or that Arkham should no longer be a prison. It should be a place that heals, a place that's full of holistic medicine and helping people to overcome their demons and their problems. Well, he has taken someone, a pretty recent villain that was locked up just maybe like 5 issues ago, and he showcased this person off like, hey, I've been working with this villain, and look, they're fine. In fact, let's unhandcuff them, and look, they're cool. They're not going to kill me or anybody else. So you have to read it to find out who that is. So very much an optimist. I guess he never really read the files of what went on in the past Arkham.
Sir, maybe you should read these. No, it's fine.
So more on Dr. Ware. Now, I said it's his first appearance, but let me go ahead and just tell you, if you're going to collect this for his first appearance, don't bother. Okay? His first appearance is not going to matter. I can't tell you why. Hint, hint, wink, wink. But I don't want anyone buying this going, oh, Jason said it's a first appearance, and then reading it and getting mad at me. But I do have to say it is his first appearance. I just don't think it's going to ultimately matter for certain reasons. And the cool thing is, so a few pages into this book, it goes 24 days later. Okay, so the doctor is sort of opening the tower, and then it's like, well, here's a few weeks in now. Now, I can't talk about this without a minor spoiler. I'm just going to do it. Is there anybody out here who thinks that this tower is going to open, everything's going to go well? There wouldn't be any drama. I mean, in writing, you need drama. So guess what? 24 days later, the tower opens up, and it has gone to hell. Trust me, I'm not spoiling it. You should read it for yourself to see just how it's like optimistic, and then 24 days later, oh no!
It's kind of like a horror movie.
Yeah. Or survival horror movie.
Yeah, I read a preview copy we had of this, and I was like, this almost reminds me of like a scary haunted house you go to at Halloween that they would have like the asylum and stuff. It's pretty intense.
It's bad. So whereas Arkham, you could escape it because it was, a couple floors up. This thing's a big tower, and it seems that a lot of members of the Bat family are trapped in there. Mm-hmm. Now, we don't know how they got there. Why they got there makes sense because it's, once again, this place has just gone to hell. Mm. So a lot of members of the Bat family are in there, and they seem trapped in there, and Oracle's trying to help them out. It's pretty cool. I like how it did the shift, and I'm definitely hooked to see where this goes down. I can see why weekly works for this as far as keeping that thrill level up. So there is a backup story as well called The House of Wayne. I didn't know what to expect from this one, but it has a kid in it who meets Batman after the Joker has killed their family. And the kid ends up being taken to Arkham. Now, not the tower. So once again, this is a story that seems like it's being told in the past. I don't know who this kid is. I mean, I have guesses, but I don't know who. But this is just a part one to this backup story. I'm not sure where they're going with it, so I can't say if this is this kid's first appearance or not. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure what they're doing with this, but it was a good read. Joker's in it. He has some good lines. Really nice to see Joker in a Batman book, being himself. So... anyhow, that's Detective Comics issue 1047, and we have this awesome Lee Bermejo variant, Batman dragging the Joker to the original Arkham for the umpteenth time. But when Lee Bermejo draws it, something about it feels like it could be final. We know it's not, but,
It's like one of those classics, like he drags him, he tosses him in, Joker gets up and like sneaks around the outside, and it's just a never-ending loop.
It's like a spy versus spy comic. Is.
So next up, we have another book that you would maybe say has a first appearance in it. So this is X-Men number 6, and this has been kind of talked about because it is the first appearance of Captain Krakoa, which is a very interesting character. He's kind of billed as a little bit of like the X-Men Superman. Like he can fly, he's got all these powers, but I wouldn't rush out and grab too many copies of it. Anytime there's somebody with a helmet, you never know who's underneath it. No spoilers for that though. It is a really cool issue where it's funny. We have all the stuff going on with Inferno, and then we have this, and it's hard to tell where they fall with each other. Right. But this one takes place mostly on Earth at the treehouse and everything with this X-Men team, so it could be going on at the same time. There's not too many characters that go between both, but you do learn in this issue who is Captain Krakoa, what their mission is, like why do they need this character. But Cyclops goes before the Quiet Council and believes that Captain Krakoa should be on the X-Men. Now, this is a big deal because Cyclops resigned from the Council a few issues ago, saying, like, I'm going to take a step back, I'm going to focus on leading the X-Men instead of this big picture stuff. But now he comes back to them wanting Captain Krakoa to be on the team. So you'll have to read how that goes. Of course, they've got questions about it and everything. But it is a very interesting issue. And I'm more interested... it's like, I think the bigger story is not who Captain Krakoa is, but why. Yeah. And that is... it seems like when the final page at the bottom it says like next issue or to be continued, and it's supposed to be kind of the secret origin of Captain Krakoa that I think is more interesting than who it is. It's why they're doing what they do. So that is X-Men number 6. We also have this 1 in 25 Laraz variant that we are selling for $20.
Okay, so I read the first issue of Elektra, Black, White, and Blood. This is the latest in the series of Black, White, and Blood comics that Marvel has done. They've done Wolverine and Deadpool, a few other ones. And so now Elektra gets her own. And I'd say this is very timely. This is sort of like the year of Elektra.
The Elektra
Even though
Renaissance.
I guess it began last year at this point. But yeah, once she took up the mantle of Daredevil, she's just been all over the place. Soon she's going to be in Daredevil Woman Without Fear.
Yep.
So these Black, White, and Blood series, they have multiple stories in them. They're anthology series, so multiple teams working in them. This has 3 different stories in it. The first one is by Charles Soule and Mark Bagley. I mean, right there, that's a team up that you just want to read. And their story has Elektra as a vampire, but it's not the way you would think. It's not, oh, she's a vampire assassin. It's more, she gets turned into a vampire. What does she do now? That's the story. Then the next one is by Leonard Romero, who does the writing and the art on his story, and it is Elektra being an assassin against the Yakuza. So I think the idea of that story was, let's really show her doing her thing. Because, and I think this is smart, in her book, now that she's Daredevil, she's sworn off killing. She's typically in Daredevil, so we know she's an assassin, but you don't see too much assassination things. In this, she's killing. It's Black, White, and Blood. These are Yakuza, so she's killing and killing and killing. Then the third story is by Declan Shalvey and D.R. Mini, and their story, it's like hard to tell. It seems like it's sort of in her own head in a way, but it's her trying to retain some of her purity while still being an assassin. That's the best way I can put it. You're trying to like save your young self from all the bad things you have to do, and the bad things you're gonna do, trying to make it where you don't become as bad as the things that you're doing. So we got a couple variants on this. This is the John Boy Myers variant. And here we have the Mirka Andolfo variant. And lastly, there is a 1 in 25 Bill Sienkiewicz variant.
It's a great cover.
It's really good. We are selling it for $45.
Next up, we've got a new issue of Spawn. So this is Spawn 325. I guess this is special because up where they have the number, instead of normally where it's white, it's green. It's like, hey, look, this is another landmark issue. We got 25 past 300. So this one is interesting. It would be hard to explain the story that's been going on so far, but the key things about this is there is a return of a fan favorite ally of Spawn that we haven't seen. I think maybe he appeared in 300 or Spawn Universe. One of those, I don't remember. There was a short story with this character. But a character I really like. I really like their series back when they had one. So that is a really cool thing. But also, I feel like since, we've got Gunslinger Spawn, we've got Medieval Spawn, but back in the day, McFarlane made a bunch of Spawn toys. I don't know if y'all know this, but the man made a bunch of toys. And they were really cool interpretations of Spawn that weren't just the main one. And they're not necessarily ones that ever appeared in comics. We had Pirate Spawn, and we had all these things. We had Raven Spawn, but then he ended up being in one of the comics. We had, Gunslinger, I think, was originally something like that. But there's been a lot that, I think Mandarin Spawn too, but were either covers or figures first, and then they worked them into the book. Well, we're at it again because there is some new Spawns in this issue. So I don't know if anything will ever be as hot as Gunslinger Spawn's first appearance, because that one is just super hard to find. But if you like all the variations of Spawn, get ready because there is at least 3 more in this one, with probably more to come. And it's always fun to look at them and be like, oh, it's whatever Spawn. They're like trying to think of your own names for them, and they get really funny trying to figure it out. But they're actually like not just, oh, there's a wide picture of 1,000 spawns, you can point out the different ones. No, they seem to be part of the story, especially in the beginning of this issue. So, Spawn 325, first appearance of some more spawns. Will they survive? Who knows? But really cool issue. And then I love this variant cover, and it is by Barbary with Cygor on it. Super cool. Love giant mechanical gorillas.
Okay, so a new indie book from Aftershock. I read Bylines in Blood. So this is set in sort of a bleak future full of just crime and deviancy. Our main character, you see her right there, her name is Satya, and she is Satya, yeah, Satya. She is a private investigator, and she is tough as nails too. I always like that when, I'm a big noir fan, and I like it when my PIs can take a punch and can give a punch. She's definitely that sort, but she's got brains as well. And the crux of the story is the daughter of her former friend and boss comes to her for help. And it turns out that this former friend and boss has been killed. He was a newspaper guy. They were on newspaper together. And it's a printed dead tale that they all lost their jobs. Well, he went off determined to start his own paper, and then eventually she got into the private eye business. Now, I don't know, it's not revealed in this issue why he's killed, but when it comes to somebody trying to start a newspaper or being a reporter, there's so many reasons you could end up with information where people would want you dead. So that's a good hook, really, for a character who gets killed. So she has to decide if she wants to take the job or not. Clearly, she is going to take the job.
Yeah.
You'll have to see how that all works out, though. And she begins her investigation, and you just sort of follow along with the first bit of it as she tries to figure out what happened to her friend, and she also, does a bit of mourning. So what I'll say about this, it's good. The writing is really solid. It is a well-written, sort of modern noir tale. The art is also really good. I thought the coloring was great. Like, I think the cover really shows off the art well. If you think that this looks like your style of book, the way I described it, and this art, the interiors totally do that justice. So just a well-made comic for the right sort of person who likes to read that sort of thing, which is me. And one thing is, it feels like a miniseries, because when it comes to there's a mystery, well, mysteries end.
Yeah.
But I couldn't find out anything on this being a miniseries. It's been solicited to me as an ongoing, because they haven't said how many issues. Maybe I just couldn't find it, but I'm guessing it's a mini-series, but it was not really solicited that way. So here is the 115 Doe variant that we are selling for $15. I also like a book where it just follows sort of one character. I mean, this is the main character, and this is who you will see from the first page to the last page. You are following that character through this interesting world and situation.
So next up for me, we have one that I didn't get to read super close, but people are going to be talking about it. This is Captain Marvel number 35. And I'm going to spoil a little bit of this one, but that if you read the previous issue, it also basically what happens in the very end of it. And also, if you walk in your comic book store and see any of the covers on the shelf, they will also spoil it for you. So it's not that big of a thing. There is a new member of the Captain Marvel family. If you see, the series is called, like, The Marvels. In the end of the last issue, something happened where Captain Marvel basically split herself. And there's her, and then there is the entity that she used to be, Binary. And Binary is now their own thing. So that's kind of the big crux reveal of this issue. It's interesting to read because Binary can't talk, so it's like empty speech bubbles. It's a very odd thing, at which I don't know how it would be represented if you were like with her in person. Would it just be her mouth moving but nothing coming out?
Heavy breathing.
Yeah.
Darth Vader breathing.
Yeah, it's just tiny little empty word balloons. But seems really cool. I need to read this in depth more. But you'll see with these variant covers, this one is called the spoiler variant. This is the Russell Dodderman variant. And then, of course, we have the design variant. And then, because it's just funny and goofy, we have the Villain's Reign variant as well. Which, why they chose Captain Marvel to be Mole Man, just seems like they pulled names out of hat and pulled out like Captain Marvel, and the villain she's going to be is Mole Man. But that is by Todd Knock.
All right, so the DC book I would say I enjoyed reading the most this week was actually One Star Squadron issue number 2. Now, I know this is not a heavy spec book. I know that this is not a Batman book. Batman doesn't even appear in this book, surprisingly. I know, a DC book without Batman, just, throw it in the trash. But this, I just enjoyed reading. I gave the first one a good review. I thought it was well written and funny and fun. Good sort of satire about Red Tornado leading a group of sort of washed up superheroes who now have a service where you can select them through an app and they show up at birthday parties. They still do guarding missions and stuff. Well, this issue is very much about the character Minuteman. So Minuteman, he has a power where he can take a pill, and for 1 minute he has like Superman abilities. But in this issue, it just shows how much he's fallen on hard times. He is no longer supplied the pill from his supplier. He doesn't have the money to buy it, so he actually turns to buying something like it off a drug dealer on the street. So how well do you think that works? You buy a super pill from a drug dealer on the street, and then you take it in a situation where you need to be a super-powered person. Start imagining how that goes for him. So I thought that was all pretty funny and interesting. Also, some of the other heroes on the One Star Squadron, they run into some villains who work for a different app, like Villain Henchman app, and they learn that they're being paid better. So that's a problem. Because the other major character of this whole thing is Red Tornado, who's on pretty much all the covers. He is the head of the One Star Squadron. And it's just headache after headache for this poor guy trying to run this thing. He's just trying to get his people money, get them paid, but they're all just falling apart. Some of them used to be heroes, and their respect is just totally diminished. And to make it worse, you have Power Girl, as we saw in the first issue. She's preparing a little coup. She's getting ready for a power play to possibly take over the little bit that Red Tornado even has of running the squadron. So another good issue. It gave me a couple laughs, but it's more than just humor. There is story going on here. It does have a bit of drama, a bit of heart to it. On top of that, last show after we reviewed it, we got this nice postcard from the artist, Steve Lieber. So thank you very much, Steve, for this.
Little Red Tornado.
Yeah. So that really made our day. And, I'm glad that a book I liked, we got something sent to us by, because that didn't really affect that I liked issue 2 a lot as well.
Yeah.
So thank you, Steve. And I hope those of you who want something a little different and like DC, give it a chance. Pick it up.
So next up, I have Dr. Aphra number 17. This is another great installment of the Star Wars Dr. Aphra series. We are introduced to, I think she may have been in it before, but one of Aphra's main rivals, which is a really funny character because it's a character that's obsessed with the Jedi, but has no Force abilities, and so she kind of cosplays as a Sith with a fake lightsaber and stuff, and Aphra just makes fun of her the whole time. Like, why are you wearing that? You don't have any force powers. But if you read one of the previous issues, you realize this thing that Aphra is holding on the cover is this kind of dark artifact that gives you somewhat force abilities. So, of course, a character who always wanted to be a Sith is going to try to get this. But who is she working for? So, really cool issue. There is a tie to Crimson Dawn in it with one of the key characters that's been working with Kira that we had a lot of questions about. We still got more questions, but it looks like that character is going to be around in this series for a few issues. So, great issue of Dr. Aphra. We've got some variants. Love this one. Really cool.
An expression.
And of course, we have the Lucasfilm 50th anniversary. This time, The Last Jedi with Rose and Holdo.
Okay, so I read Black Widow issue number 13. This one is easy to review, but it doesn't mean that it is a cheap read whatsoever. So, last issue, there was a character called the Living Blade who has some history with Black Widow. The Living Blade is an assassin. His weapon of choice, if you can't tell by his name, is his sword, his very deadly sword. This whole issue is a flashback to Madripoor, where Black Widow first gets into a fight with this guy. And that's the whole issue. I mean, the whole issue is just, here's how they met one time and were in a fight that lasts an entire issue, which I think you need that sometimes. You know, these are comics. We want our action occasionally, and that's what it is. It is a just brutal, bloody, mostly rooftop battle. Of course it's going to travel.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the battle goes from rooftop to rooftop, and they go in a few places. They even end up in a somewhat humorous bathroom scene, a bathroom fight, where Black Widow, she has to use every trick at her disposal to try to stop this guy. I mean, he is good, and it seems like he is her better at just about every point. I won't reveal what happens in the end. You know, clearly neither of them die, since we know they haven't died. But still, a really good issue to just build up this new villain. I haven't seen that done in a while, where it's like, let's give a whole issue to develop that these characters have a history and to show this is what to expect from their abilities. So that's Black Widow issue 13. Here we have the Devil's Reign variant. We have the Pimentel variant. And lastly, Rob Liefeld's Deadpool 30th Anniversary variant.
Yes, it has made it into the new year. Into his 31st year. So, my next one is one that I wish I got a chance to read, but I didn't. But we have Amazing Spider-Man number 84. This is dealing more with how Doc Ock is kind of back in the life of Aunt May. And Ben Reilly also is going to have a throwdown with Doc Ock, which is cool. We're still kind of going through Ben Reilly having to meet some of Peter's big enemies throughout this series. It's been really fun. Paco Medina does the art, who I love, so it's great to see that. And check out this awesome Lafonte variant cover. This is the Devil's Reign, but this time Aunt May is leading a whole host of gorillas. I forgot what that character's name is. The guy who can control gorillas. He's like an older dude. He's got long white hair. I forgot what his name is.
Yeah,
Let us know in the comments, but he's a very funny character.
Okay, so I read Darkhold Omega. This is the final issue in the Darkhold series. Take that cover in. That is a creepy, scary cover with Scarlet Witch on there. Of course, Scarlet Witch was trying to stop Doom from releasing what was in the Darkhold, which is the evil god Chthon. And so she pulled together 5 heroes. She had them read from the Darkhold to try to keep Chthon locked up. But unfortunately, it infected all 5 of their brains, and we got 5 really good one-shots out of it. We did. I quite enjoyed all of those. And so the problem is, Scarlet Witch brought the heroes around to help her. They all got infected, and so in this, it's her trying to stop Chthon from appearing, and the heroes are actually against her. They're called the Darkhold Defiled. That's what they are, and so she has to take all of them on. That's the most I can tell you. Except there is one other important reason some people might want to pick this one up. The end of this had a surprise ending. A character that has not been seen in Marvel Comics that I know of since 1979, when they were killed off, comes back to the Marvel Universe. I can say for sure, I'm not talking about Miracle Man. I don't want anybody to get things crossed. Of course, he's been around after that, but just still. But another character who had their own Marvel book, ongoing series, their name was in it back in 70s. They killed them off in 1979, and they are brought back in this issue into the regular Marvel Universe. Will we see more of them? I don't know, but I mean, I was surprised by it. I was like, really? It's that character? And I did a little research, and sure enough, it was. So another reason you might want to check out Darkhold Omega this week. Then we have the Hepburn variant. And lastly, the Tormy design variant that we're selling for $15. And that's all I will say on that one.
I had to look it up. Red Ghost. Red Ghost controls gorillas.
Okay.
It's a very weird Marvel character. But next up for me, it is showing off Soul Plumber, one of the hottest books on the shelves right now. This is number 4 of 6. What are we going to do when this book is over? Hopefully they'll announce another one, because some ravenous fans.
I know. Those people for the last podcast on the left, they seem like they can do no wrong. And they have written a wild book that I don't see DC releasing a book like this unless you have enough clout to not be over-editorialized.
Yes.
It's a messed up book.
Yep, so don't forget, it's out this week. Go to your local comic shops, because they're probably starting to order less and less of it. So if it's not on your pool, get there early to pick it up today.
Okay, so I also read Captain America Iron Man issue 2. Look at that wonderful Alex Ross cover. So I guess Cap and Iron Man just have not been hanging out enough in the other Avenger books. They need some alone time, some bro time.
Some bro time, yeah.
So they got a little mini-series. Of course, last issue, there is our villain, Veronica Eden, who has a history with, particularly a history with Tony Stark. And she was trying to take over Hydra. She was a double agent working for Hydra. And she also wants to become the head of Hydra. So she was on her way to prison. She gets broken out and helped by this character. He's a former hero. I guess he's now a former hero because what he did. His name is 51. He's an alien. And his former comrades, the Paladins, try to stop him. They kind of get in the way of Captain America and Iron Man. And so issue 2 picks up from there, where the Paladins are sort of apologizing. Sorry we got in your way. We don't know why our man 51 has gone bonkers. So if you want to know why, read the issue. And let's see, what else is this? So, and Cap and Tony have to break into a Hydra base where Veronica Eden and 51 already are. They're there stealing some important tech, some stuff that Captain America is not all happy that they're messing around with. And so they break in to find out what's going on, and there's a bit of a showdown. You learn a little more, but things are just heating up in this miniseries. Things are you're just heating up. I'd say my favorite part, though, it's what I said about issue 1, is Veronica Eden. The way she thinks is really funny. She is just so full of herself, even if she has no powers at all. She has such unearned bravado that it's just funny to read a villain like that. So we have the U variant for that issue.
My final one is Odinn's Eye number 4. So this is not the final issue of the Bad Idea series Odin's Eye. I believe it has one issue left. And I think that will conclude the final 5.
Something like that.
Something like that.
It's definitely the end of Odin's Eye.
Yes.
Because the final 5 has been turned to the final 6. There's supposed to be something else.
Yeah, well, there's the Invisible comic, too, that they've teased.
Okay.
So, yeah. It's funny, someone came in yesterday and looked, and they're like, hey, what's this Bad Idea Company? And I just had to stop and think, like, where do I start this story? How far back do I go? So
just tell them, ask again in 6 months.
Yeah.
Where will they be? Will they be?
Yeah. I just need some hindsight on them. But the other cool thing about this issue is it's the return of Hank Howard, the pizza detective, but this time it's Hank Howard, pizza detective, in the year 4000. So if you've been a fan of all the Hank Howard pizza detective stories, this has a pretty cool one in it as well. Definitely check out this book for the art. It is pretty incredible. Very Conan vibes, like the very sweeping snow-covered wastelands and giants and swords and everything. Really cool. So if your store is carrying the Bad Idea books, definitely check out Odin's Eye. I think it's one of the best ones that have come out recently.
Yeah, they're ending on a high note with Odin's Eye. Odin's Eye, just pretty incredible. So I glanced at this, did not get to read it yet. Too much to read this week, but Wastelanders Doom is out. This is the one shot about Dr. Doom in the wastelands of the future in Old Man Logan territory. Now, of course, he already has his section of the territory, his like Doom area that he rules. But what was going on in this one is he finds out there's another territory where his Doom bots are they for some reason don't go there. So he goes to check it out, and he discovers there is some heavy magic going on. So I think it's funny, he's like the ruler, but this is so Doom. He doesn't send his men, he goes himself and deals with it. So that's what the issue is generally about. I still need to finish reading it, though. It was Showtime as I was reading it. And it has this McNiven variant, the original artist from Old Man Logan. And the last one I wanted to show off is maybe my favorite cover of the week. The Fourth Man, #1, by Upshot Comics. So look at that. They're using the Waffle House sign font and logo and style. But that is a pancake. It's been shot through the head, and there's what looks like red coming out of it, but it's being used like ketchup on the hash browns. I just think that is a very clever cover. Definitely stands out. And it is relevant to the book. I read this. It's cool. It's set in 1991, and it's about a homicide unit where they're going to get their first female member. Mm-hmm. But the homicide that's happened is it's like a crime tale, basically. It's gangs fighting with each other, but we're talking like mafioso sort of stuff. And the guy who was murdered in it was shot in the head where the pancake was shot. So that does refer to that. I read it. Once again, if you like crime comics, I would suggest it. I thought the writing was really good. The art was solid. But, I mean, nothing's going to sell it better than this cover. So
really sad pancake.
Yeah, so this is a 4-issue series, The Fourth Man, #1. And this is not the regular cover. This is a variant. So just look for that at your store if it appeals to you or if it makes you hungry. And that's it for this week. So
pretty good week, pretty solid stuff. Yep. I feel like there's so many things that we wanted to say but couldn't because it would ruin something. But there's some good surprises this week.
Yep, we must withhold. We must let people have fun reading. But we definitely have told you more than if you just read about these online, the little blurbs they release. And we definitely told you the major highlights, first appearances and such. And I have to say, we go to all the major sites and look, and a lot of them do not read these books and have things wrong. So that's why, if you notice, we have a pretty large audience that watches us. I think it's large for comic book reviews. That's because we actually read these every week and we tell you the real info.
Yeah.
So Well, anyway, thank you for watching. And if you're watching this on YouTube, hit subscribe. If we've helped you at all. We hope you're ready to go in your comic store loaded with information, knowing what you're going to buy and what you're not going to buy, knowing what variants to look for, grabbing up those Thors before they put that one per person sign up that they're inevitably going to put up. And we'll be back on Friday with comics from the future.
Yes.
We will see you then.